I don't flow on
My
paper.
hand's torn
You do?
with no paper. Yeah. And the colors flow.
Okay. So you're like just in frame, both of you. So
Oh,
perfect.
Thank you.
Incredible.
It's a great set.
This is a great setup.
Tired.
You gotta get one of those computers that like floats above you as you lay down. That'd be great.
Connell, what is anime was a mistake?
That's a quote.
Is that an anti-Wesley Who phenomenon?
That's my AT Wesley Who propo.
I will have you know, one of my first 30s was an anime AC in front of Wesley Who.
Anime AC. Oh, that's good.
I like Supreme. It's good. It's a solid aesthetic right there. Uncluttered. Simple. Could use a Premiere Debate sticker.
Dude, it's all brand is the US thing. No, I don't have that thing.
She says it's trans captivity.
What?
She says it's trans captivity.
It's the one that's disclosed. Okay. Let me see if I can find anything specific on it. Because we have all of the generics right now that are good. I would put in like status heuristic. Do you have that, Zanotti? It's. Well, I have it, but
I don't
it's.
think so.
All right, I'll just put like OS's old thing up, and that'll be good. I think. Okay, good.
I'm ready when.
Flow complete. Oh, let me click start round so they don't get mad at me. They probably are already mad at me. It's okay. I started around 18 minutes late,
How dare you?
and I still finished flight B on time. Right, I'm good.
Okay, Connell good?
Yep.
Hi, from Resolve, to find this from intent determined in the game, is to deny the truth of the world, about sinners, the debater who proves the truth, script, the truth, or falsity of the resolution prefer. First is the definitely purpose of debate. A debate is a committed game just like any other. The better committer wins, even if there are different ways of playing you. You not determine who wins based on those factors. For instance, you wouldn't decide who won a basketball game based on who shot three subs. Even that's important. You ultimately evaluate who had the most points. You disagree that debate is a game, at least means I consider one, which means you should continue because I care about winning. B, I feel a solution. Nothing leads us from under the results in the ball. This means that even if we hypothetically break down our person, ultimately makes no real world difference other than on the ballot, which makes it no sense to the actual world of the ballot. At the very best, you can write whatever you think is important on the ballot, but still a valid based on the better debater. Also better for your position, since more people will talk about your position if it loses. See the ballot as a constituent feature of debate. It tells you how to game functions and it necessitates true testing in order. From the standpoint of non-part, the paramount consideration governing employees conformity with the rules of just in the legal move, arguing that result in a more intellectually challenging game. The proper response is to ignore the argument that move the authority rules is absolutely skip the fried card. The negative must concede the affirmative contention level offense prefer a B is preemptive. You violate by reading terms under the framework opening any ink on the AC offensive B's. 8 points for education at left for both topical debate and framework debate. Thinking about different fellows really applicable because we have to bring personal traces and choose a way to live our lives. Analogy is only debate form where we can debate so much philosophy and education 100% unique to LD. Field debate best for most critical thinking when confronted with the philosophical position. A debater must think ridiculous and analyze viewpoints and in run field education is uniquely used to since we get to explicitly compare for others and we're not interacting in the even if we can't decide anything, we can gain a critical thinking about the ways warrants interact. Even if topic education outweighs a strength of link, even if topic education is better than fill, I allow for both. Whereas you only allow for bad fill because we never actually engage in the framework debate. B, I increase your breadth for topic education. And I allow for real world arguments that apply under different ethical paradigms. Skip the B point, C point, stress you. It's impossible for the 1 AR to win framework and contention level offense when you can read a framework that excludes my offense and read a bunch of terms to the half, making the right impossible informative. It also prevents us from having having unnecessary theory debates. That's my only strategic option. That is to operate with privileged laws, which should also run being a theory on which means we get no educational or analysis on substance which outweighs sense and abuse. After is a reason to drop the way it's impossible for me to compensate for abuse empirically proven by the 8% side by also impact terms and act theory. Since I'm compensating for the side by side value morality, the standard is consistency with intuitions. First, intuitions are the only thing capable of motivating moral action. Ethical frameworks are useless without motivation, which makes deriving obligations impossible. Jindal, why should one be just as intelligible? Obligation to be just as derivative from intuitions. Political theories lack binding force of theorists who persuades without asserting truth. The selfless principles of justice not based on objective moral principles are arbitrary, best and prejudicial at worst. Without binding moral force, there must be some a priori non-subjective commitment that compels individuals to sacrifice their self-interest. The gap reflects the distance between description and obligation. Absent any clear reason to prefer another framework, a default to that being true because defaults are definitionally intuition. Second, those who rely on intuitions empirically act immorally less often gain during the experiment. Participants wrote about time they acted immorally and were asked to take an unsolvable IQ test. Those were asked to their on paper. 23% of people cheated. People who tend to rely on their gut feeling are less likely to cheat after reflecting on their time when they behaved immorally. People try to compensate for bad behavior by acting morally in the present. Third, all frameworks collapse to intuitions. The only reason we adopt a moral framework is when it draws a conclusion consistent with our intuitions. For instance, if Util tells us to kill our mom to save two strangers, we would not act under Util 4. Intuitions are epistemologically justified. Every chain of reasoning has to start somewhere to avoid infinite regress. Humor reasoning sometimes changes, but there's also always things same prior to reasoning. Otherwise, reasoning could not get started. Initial intellectual appearances and intuition that appears as state of reasoning, so one that appears not depend on inference from other beliefs that results from thinking about P5. Neuroscience proves rational reflection fails. Dr. is celebrated neuroscientist lays out the current state of this neuroscientific research into decision making, followed by reviews of literature. Conclusion is that people experience damage to parts of the brain responsible for reactions are unable to decide the ideal and rational being with decisions with their course of consent is revealed as a helpless track. Six intuitions are sufficient for decision making. Enoch, it is not required that there will be ultimate. Perhaps we as a simple utility trainer so be able to use focus as reason to active. Doing so will maximize utility. This seems to mean the independently possible result. It can give you reason to act now that other reasons may be relevant, including possibly stronger reasons not to act. As having the incompleteness intuitionism recognizes aspects of multiple moral theories and allows ethical flexibility. We recognize as elements as we should explain and in some we should prevent freedom violations. This flexibility allows us to draw the good aspects of each moral theory and exclude the prominent practice, which means the intuition enhances the benefits of your framework and makes it more comprehensive. No single moral theory can take into account the complete nature of specific moral problems. Escape the 8 point. Thus, we weigh offense and restraint based on who, whether or not the risk is intuitive. I defend the resolution as a general principle. Implementation is not relevant for the framework, so almost likely accept next specificity of passing cross-sex contention, altruism, and fairness, or offer intuitive. Brain and psychological studies across ranges for Lucas' intuitive ability to engage in fair and reciprocal transactions, such as think that altruism in humans may have a biological basis and ultimately use the proper you might cut the card there. The structure of plea bargaining has always and will always contain a coercion McCoy too. The nature of plea bargaining flow from a disaster observations and historical perspective with contract analogies are inappropriate because parties are not equal in bargaining positions when coercive powers probable. This is a system in which contentions are obtained under conditions in which evidence is not publicly and in which penalties get worse the more the defendant tries to challenge the evidence, and coercion is unintuitive. In order to follow an ethical system, we must be motivated to act under. We would not intuitively consent to a system that forces us to act a certain way. This would fundamentally prevent us from allowing our intentions if it conflicts with plea bargaining. We intuitively feel that plea bargaining is best since being forced into position is unintuitive. Under V1, NEG must concede the actors throughout the debate and RVI competing interests when there are A salts and abuse. I don't have time to check a piece of wind, so says you could just kick the arc for the time to so I need the ability to go on and 3B. You can collapse in the 2 and on 3 and get away with the beast because you can go on all in for the RVI, which means I lose our guarantee. NEG already has an 8% side best meaning because I'm already a structural disadvantage, which means even if I'm abusive, it's justified. Okay.
Have you sent me a cut version?
Yeah.
You cut quite a bit there.
Yeah. Send him now.
Tell me when you sent.
It should be sending right now. Do you get it?
That'd be. Right. And let's move this over here. Okay. Did you change the McCoy evidence?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me check just real quick to see where that was. Okay. Yep. Cool. Ready for cross-ex?
Yeah.
Okay. Starting now. You say altruism and fairness are a priori intuitive, right?
Yeah.
That means that you have to determine whether or not plea bargaining is altruistic and or fair.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't that mean that you could devolve the consequentialism, determining whether or not plea bargaining results in non-altruism
No,
or
the
unfairness?
argument is that like if plea bargaining is unfair, that's a reason it's
Right, and if plea bargaining is unfair, it relies on you evaluating whether or not plea bargaining results in unfairness.
No, we're just
Yes,
looking
it
at
does.
whether
Why
it's
doesn't it?
intuitive or not intuitive. I don't see.
Well,
how
yeah,
consequences
right. You say
play a
no.
role.
The only thing you say is it's intuitive that altruism and fairness are good. You don't say that it's intuitive that plea bargaining is altruistic or fair.
I mean,
So
I
where's
say
the link between
because
proof-
coercion is unintuitive.
Right,
and,
but
coercion
that's
is
a
unfair.
that's a consequential evaluation of whether or not plea bargains are coercive.
You can make that
right?
argument if you want, but,
But
I don't
okay,
see how
but
it's
I
a
need you to tell me
consequential.
whether or not that is a devolution to consequentialism.
No, it's not.
Why?
Because all I'm looking at strictly is whether it's intuitive or it's
And
not
right, and the
intuitive.
only thing you prove that's intuitive is altruism and fairness. You never say
also said
that it's
coercion
intuitive.
is
No, you
unintuitive.
never say it's intuitive that it's coercive. You say McCoy says it always
Literally
has and
right
always
under
will.
the McCoy, it says coercion is unintuitive.
Yeah, coercion is unintuitive, but that doesn't mean that it's intuitive that plea bargaining contains coercion.
The McCoy evidence says plea bargaining.
Actually, the
contains
McCoy evidence
coercion.
says in the line down text, it is most probable that the system began as a principled compromise, hardened into contract, and has devolved into disaster. That means it hasn't always been coercive, which means that it's not
But
intuitive.
it's coercion now.
It's coercion now doesn't mean that it's intuitive, right? Because if it wasn't previously
if it's
coercive,
coercion now and coercion is unintuitive, that means it's
yeah, but it means
unintuitive
but
now.
that means it's not intuitive that it's coercive, right? It means
is
that it's
intuitive.
consequentially coercive.
No, it's currently in the scope. It's
All right, whatever. You're
coercion
wrong.
is
We'll move on to the
unintuitive.
framework. You say that we have to evaluate intuitions, right?
Yeah.
What's intuitive?
So there's two ways we could determine what's intuitive. There's one, there's things that we know a priori to be intuitive, i.e. like altruism and fairness.
Why?
The second thing,
Why do we know that those are a priori
that's the
intuitive?
Lucas evidence.
Right, why? Explain it.
So the
What makes that
because
intuitive?
like people intuitively want to do
Oh,
things.
so it's a priori true because we intuit it, right?
Yeah.
It's intuitive. So intuitions are what's intuitive. That's all you have to say?
No,
What else is there?
finished. There's also like what we know as a general intuition.
Okay, and how do we determine what's a general intuition?
Okay, so like arguments
Is
like
it by intuition?
arguments like coercion is unintuitive. We know like coercion is generally unintuitive.
Because we intuit it, right?
Because of the warrant and
The
why
warrant.
coercion
What's
is unintuitive.
so the warrant for why it's unintuitive is motivated to act under it. We would not intuitively. So yeah, we would not intuitively. So whether or not determining what is intuitive is through intuition.
No, like, we
so
don't-
where's the starting point or warrant for intuition? Is there one or is there not?
There is a starting point. That's like the 4 point. And that's the 4 point. Like all
It
these
just-
other
It just says
frameworks-
epistemologically justified. Every train of reasoning has to start somewhere, which you just say is intuition.
Yeah, it starts with
so how do we
intuition.
know what is intuitive, and how do we know that?
I just explained it. Like there's
No,
things
you
we
just
have
explained it by
a priori
saying that intuitive
and things we have general
intuition. What is
intuitive.
intuitive is through intuition. That's all you said.
That's not what I said.
Okay, that's fine. I'll start prep time. And now. Oh wait, it's 5 minutes. Sorry, starting now. Stop prep. Minute 30 remaining. The order is going to be 1 off, AC, 2nd off, and the 2nd off will be read if time.
1 off, AC, 2nd off, on the AC, starting where?
Framework.
Okay.
It'll just be like top down of the AC. Line by line.
Okey-doke.
Alright, saving doc and apply all. Sent. Mail delivery subsystem, delivery status notification failure, address not found. Okay, 1 second, let me see what's wrong. Xavier debate. Xavier debate is Xavier debate VII.
Oh. No, it's not. It's okay. I don't need it. I don't need
Okay.
the speech doc, but
Yeah, I just hit reply all. So
yeah.
So it's actually just the number
it's
7.
it's the Arabic numeral 7, not the Roman numeral 7. My bad.
Okay.
So this is the first time that has happened, and that's really funny.
I think Manashi might have missed.
Yeah. Actually, could you just?
You know what? I'll just hit real quick, forward it to the correct email.
Yeah. Cheers.
And I'll also forward your AC, Manish. Hold on. Okay, so forward to Xavier.
That's really funny.
To Xavier debate number 7 at gmail.com, and that's Manish's position. And now let's forward my stuff. Forward to Xavier debate 7. Got it. Okay, great.
Wait, I still didn't get the one end of them.
I just sent it to Manish Bad. Wait, is it Manish S Bada?
I just got it.
Oh, okay, good. I swear, if it was a double subsystem failure, that would have been.
You'd get 2 separate emails.
What?
You'd get 2 separate emails
Oh yeah, true.
because the subsystem just executes twice.
Okay. Is everybody ready?
Yep.
Okay. Starting. Now, the ability to bring conditions upon oneself is a prerequisite of moral judgment. Wallace. People who are morally responsible, not just causally responsible for certain habits, the way the clogged and responsible for the overflowing of basing rather actions or thoughts to reflect upon them as agents. Moral responsibility has a quality of depth going beyond the mere description of a moral character of what they do or their all-causal role in bringing their actions about. That implies the right to choose the course of one's own life event, even if it's one against one's own self-interest. Dworkin. Recognizing the individual right of autonomy allows each of us to be responsible for shaping our lives according to our personality rather than be led along that we allow someone to choose death over radical amputation because we acknowledge his right to a life structured by his own values. Also hijacks intuitionism because it's intuitive that we get to do what we wish. There's no intuitive justification for any sort of external reason because an external reason says that every single individual has to follow it, but if any individual has a different intuitive reason, and that would contradict that. That's the negative order, so that ban on plea bargains would violate the right of defendants to bring conditions upon themselves for 3 additional reasons. 1, even if plea bargaining does not justify refusing defendants on the opportunity to engage in consensual waiving of rights is always morally permissible, which is why the boxing isn't assault. The app assumes intuitions because they read an intuitionist framework. Second, the foundation of the criminal justice system assumes the autonomy of defendants over changing criminal law incoherent Hashimoto. The justification for punishment is that the defendant has previously chosen to engage in unlawful conduct, thus before punishment can be imposed on there is a process for determining that defendant is a fact. In fact, blameworthy, the CJS is designed to make that determination because the process itself is necessarily perceived. Then in conclusion, the process cannot deprive the defendant of autonomy. And 3, enforcing compliance with the conception of the good on others is the foundation of repression. Rules 4. Rules. Shared adherence to one congregates the doctrine can be maintained only by a press of state power followed by the corruption of philosophy and science in the Middle Ages, uniting the affirming the faith the Inquisition was needed to preserve a shared belief in the same for any comprehensive moral doctrine in society united in the form of utilitarianism on the views of contrary will require a press of state power to reign. So moreover, this destroys any epistemic legitimacy of the judgment rendered by removing the voice of the defendants from the moral deliberation of a trial procedure, including the AC. Also, this hijacks the intuition framework because he literally says that we shouldn't allow coercion, but he's coercing individuals by saying that there is a set of 3 different intuitions out of the affirmative that we must follow and must take actions in response to. And I contend that limiting plea bargaining will eliminate mechanisms for consensual resolution of criminal conflict and status quo. Defendants have the right to jury trial and should they wish on the prevalence of plea bargaining is effectively a waiver of rights. How? Trading contentions for guilty pleas is not mystery. Defendants who accept bargains by plea offers are not coercive. The vast majority also do not receive undeserved punishment. The exceptions are innocent defendants who accept bargains. They do not deserve punishment over notions of autonomy support. Even allowing an innocent to accept the deals and denying them the bargaining option either improves their position. And even if some defendants are coerced or uninformed, it's not justification for limiting the practice for all defendants to justify bargaining. Banning the practice, the offensive ban must defend a ban even for ideal defendants. The essence of paternalism also takes out the entirety of the affirmative because the affirmative is literally just saying that here's an impact to plea bargains, which is that it creates coercion and that that coercion is intuitive, whether there's no reason as to why the fact that plea bargaining has coercion is intuitive, and this contention level denies that plea bargains have coercion because you get to make any decision you want, even decisions that would result in some things that are against your own interest, because that is a meta level argument about whether or not why it's not coercive, because the individual makes the decision to have that analysis. Now let's go to his framework. Starting with the overview of framework 1, intuitions can't usefully guide moral theory, since the cases where we want moral guidance are actually exactly the ones that intuitions disagree. E.g., some people have an intuition that we should turn the trial, the other people don't. This means that appealing to intuition can never settle the question is what to do, and again, except in cases that are already obvious. Second, intuitions contradict even with individuals. For instance, I think that it's okay to throw the switch in the trolley problem, not okay to push the fat man off the bridge, but I also have a second order intuition. The manner of causing death is morally irrelevant, since these are all correct. Relying on intuition produces incoherence. Third, intuitions are distorted by morally relevant order effects. Wiegmann. Order effects have a substantial influence on this judgment, moral dilemmas. Judgments of actions that are normally regarded as morally acceptable are affected to the dilemma is preceded by one of this proposed way to judge it. Dogmatically, we conducted an empirical study which showed that the order effects can be strong enough to lead qualitative judgment reversals. This provides evidence that people's moral intuitions can be influenced by irrelevant factors. 4, universally shared moral intuitions are governed by natural selection, but selective forces don't track moral truth. E.g., is adapted for us to advance the interests of our group and care more about the world between people close to us than far away. But this isn't a reason why far away people matter less, or why we ought to take more care for community members than outsiders. Hence, there's no reason to think that intuition has any connection to the truth. And 5, moral intuitions are shaped by racist and other distorting motives to Pizarro at all. Across 5 studies, we found evidence that people flexibly endorse moral principles that support judgments consistent with their political implications. We presented dilemmas where a small number of lives could be sacrificed to save more liberals who were less willing to endorse a killing on consequential grounds when the name of individuals who suggested that he was black, and others suggested that he was white. We also found that conservatives more likely to condone the killing of innocent civilians, Iraqis by Americans, and than Americans by Iraqis. These findings that evidence motivate our influence our prescriptive beliefs. Now we're going to cut those other arguments and give some really easy line analysis of the affirmative. Let's start with his affirmative contention choice. Contradictions to converse. Let's just line on his terrible standards. Look at philosophical education. 1, you don't allow philosophical education and topical education. You deny my ability to respond to your topical defense. Second, there's no reason why to have a philosophical debate we have to exclude a contention level debate. 3, debate on philosophy only matters if we can actually debate how it applies to the resolution itself. Otherwise, it's literally useless. We're just debating randomly about philosophy, but it has literally nothing to do with what there actually isn't a debate if it doesn't matter if it doesn't apply to the contention level. And 4, philosophical debate is not supposed to result in a winner. The point of philosophical debate is and framework debate is determine what we have to use to weigh their analysis of Stratsky argument 1. It's not strategy. You're literally just saying that you're really bad at speaking quick enough so that you can get to the arguments. It's not a structural scheme. It's literally just you are too slow to be able to get through the arguments that I'm making because the argument's not well warranted enough. Second, you incentivize theory debate by saying that I literally have to concede certain levels of arguments that is obviously going to trigger theory debates because you're saying I cannot debate you on these points, but that would just require that I open up the capability to debate you. And 3, your ACC argument doesn't make any sense. For my responses, you have to weigh against the arguments against philosophical education because Stratsky assumes that you're actually winning. Any reason is why having contention choice is a good thing. Now let's go to your framework arguments. Let's start on the 1 point. You said that intuitions is the only motivational thing. This doesn't matter because unless you prove that intuitions are functional in order to make decisions about things, it doesn't matter whether or not it can motivate us if we don't know what it's supposed to motivate us to do. Then on the 2 point, there's no reason why we have to default to your framework as intuitive. You just say it's definitionally an intuition, but this is the analytic nib under his first justification, but he just says we default to the framework is definitionally an intuitive, but there's no reason as why your framework is exclusively the intuitive framework that we would look to. You literally have a card that says that some individuals would intuit utilitarianism, which takes us to the argument. Now then your 2.1 is empirically derived white supremacists in the Jim Crow era would have some sort of intuition that made them morally incorrect. Second, acting immorally appeals to another standard in the first place. Your argument literally talks about how it would be best to act immorally, but that just means that we have to look to some other framework, which is my framework. Then in your 3.1, there's no warrant. One utilitarian example is not a reason is why it is all encompassing. And 3, it's empirically data because people can run other frameworks all the time and they win other frameworks. Down your 4 point, there's there's no reason as to why this actually has to apply to intuition is why it's epistemically true. That just because it's epistemically true doesn't mean that we have to look to intuition. Second, if intuitionism is a starting point, then that means that we have to have another framework to evaluate intuitionism as a starting point, not something that can actually motivate determine what actions we're supposed to take. On the 5.1, this is specific to emotional response, which doesn't make any sense because we're not talking about emotivism. 2, this is about damage to brains. This literally makes no sense. Obviously, if someone loses the ability to the portions of the brain that determine reasoning and decision making, then it would be damaged. Then on the 6 point, one it being sufficient does not mean that it tells us how to act in a certain situation. The card literally appeals to utilitarianism and intuition, which contradicts its 3 point. And on the 7 point, this double line either A, it's not flexible, which means that you define what is and is not intuitive, or B, it is flexible, in which case you need another framework to determine that. On the contention is so terrible. Literally, all he says is that here are some things that are intuitive, and they are intuitive because they are intuitive. That is an unwarranted assertion, but he also literally has no reason as to why plea bargaining is intuitively coercive. It's a consequential argument, but you can't evaluate consequences because there's infinitely many consequences that can happen as a result of one consequence, and consequences are retroactive. But also, his evidence literally says that in the past it was not the case that it was coercive, which means it's not intuitively coercive. It just had a consequence of coercive now, but that doesn't mean that it's intuitively a bad thing. And also, the reason why it's intuitively coercive is also just appealing to an outside framework. And I didn't read the second half. There was no time.
Alright.
So you can, I think it's probably easy just to delete the off to and down.
Okay.
I don't need to
Wait,
send an updated doc.
On overview.
Oh wait, actually, yeah, I didn't read the. Sorry, I just realized I didn't read the 6 point to 9 point. I just read 1 through 5.
Yeah. I could just cut it on here.
Yep. Just bop the 6 through 9 point and on. And that is good.
Okay. Ready for cross?
Yep.
What does it mean to bring condition upon oneself?
So basically, in order to bring conditions upon yourself, it's basically your own ability to be make decisions of your own. So like making your own decisions and being able to take those decisions. And the reason why it's saying moral judgment upon yourself is that the Wallace evidence explains that when we make decisions, that it has some sort of quality of depth that defines your moral character of what you're doing, not just simply that you have caused this action. So like if I open my hand here, the causal role is that the pen thus falls, but that is not some that doesn't have moral depth. Whereas actual moral responsibility requires that there is some character of you that made you make that decision. That is what moral responsibility is.
Do you provide a weighing mechanism in the for the NC?
What do you mean weighing mechanism?
Like how we
The NC
would-
says the negative burden to show a ban on plea bargains would violate the right of defendants to bring conditions upon themselves. You can either prove that the affirmative proves the opposite of that, and thus you would affirm under that burden, or the negative does not meet that burden.
Wait, so what offense links under this framework?
Anything that says that a ban on plea bargainings would not violate the right of defendants to bring conditions upon themselves, and you can also just say that I don't have offense if you prove that I do not show that a ban on plea bargains would violate the rights of defendants to bring conditions upon themselves.
Oh, wait, so under this framework, how would you affirm? Like,
You gain offense by proving the converse of the burden, or proving that I do not have offense by not meeting my burden.
all right, that's cool. Let's go to
That's
the
very cool. Yeah.
let's go to the AC. Okay. Did you respond to incompleteness? 7 point.
Yes, I did.
What was the response?
The incompleteness argument is about flexibility. I say that double bind. Either A, it is not flexible because you define what is and is not intuitive by reading three things that you say is intuitive, or B, it is flexible, which means that we need to have some other framework to actually guide our action because its flexibility means that it doesn't actually prescribe anything because it can just be justified through any framework.
What was the response to Enoch?
Enoch, wait, what was the Enoch tag? I just responded to them 1 through 7. Hold on, let me check.
Enoch was 6.
Enoch was 6? Okay. Alright, so 1, it being sufficient did not mean that it tells us how to act in a specific instance. So like whether or not it's sufficient to guide action, for us to like decide upon, doesn't mean that it tells us how to decide in any given instance because every individual can have a different intuition. And then the second one is that the card literally appeals to utilitarianism as intuitive, such that one individual might say, I'm simply a utilitarian, which means that not only does it contradict your 3-point, but also it just means that any person can have intuit whatever framework they want, and that would be justifiable to them.
Okay, let's see. Do you go for RVI on ACC?
No, I just read a counter interpretation and then just beat your standards.
Okay.
I can go through the arguments if you want.
No, I'll just start.
Okay.
Starting back now.
many new off?
2 new off.
Dope. Okay, so are they just theory?
Huh? Yeah.
Alright, perfect.
I sent it.
Right.
Alright, so 2 off, then case.
Two off case. Right.
Comma good.
Hold on.
Xavier.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, we're on what case? Like just app case?
Yeah.
And are you on
There'll be interactions with the NC.
On app case, or are you just going for the? Are you starting at theory, or are you starting at the offense?
Starting on ACC.
Okay. Ready now.
Is interpretation of the delineates an advocacy text written within the AC. The negative must have an advocacy text that delineates what they're defending within the NCB. Subvolution, the negative does have an advocacy text written within the NCC. Or standard stable ground having an advocacy text ensures knowledge of what the negative world looks like and ensures they don't have shift out of disadvantages. They can make new extrapolations at their next reaching the often. And as it is never completely clear what the world is without a textual advocacy, this boosts my strategy because I'll be able to move any of my offense by making those new extrapolations to solve when it wasn't clear what the negative world looked like in the first place, making it possible for the after when this controls the internal into any ground standards because my advocacy controls which ground is valid and which ground is absolutely stable. Ground is key to fairness because it uncontrollably dictates our ability to argue about fairness because our role to judges both for the best debater, not the best cheater. Also, fair judges, future debaters. Also, second off is interpretation, but debaters must provide a weighing mechanism for some sort of offenses, the weighing of text and the AC based on violations. Even if they give something for why the neg does, it's not delineated in the NC text and the NC what the half can do to win. He just makes it in a cross text. Also, it's not sufficient for what how I should actually get offense. Standards one tries to get that doesn't offer a weighing mechanism. It is impossible for the neg to decide which one and how to link their framework without a weighing mechanism. The half can be shifting to decide what links to the half and what doesn't. So they can do link any terms or case to clash without a weighing mechanism. In the one you see, I can't turn any arguments or even attempt to address them because I don't know how they function. If I can't weigh between offense, I can subsequently engage in the framework or take out his impacts. Also, I'll vote in education because they're all to like new topics and gain skills from debating each other. Also, he's conceded the 1 point in the underview that says back it's a 1 year theory with drop the debater, no RVI, and competing in terms of crystal play. All this from the underview to both the shells. Also, theory comes first. One, if I skip the 1 point. 2, we can't evaluate the substance of a round if it is uneducational or unfair since substance excludes it. Theory comes first. 2, theory defaults to first. They never wait do this. Also, 3 point is that 3 point is that if one theory has a most offense, 3 points when theory has the most time spent in 1 year and also responses and the one and so much time spent on theory. This because this has to come first. We have to resolve this first before anything else. It means the NC doesn't matter if I'm winning theory. Also, go to the ACC shell first on his counter interpretation of our point. Is he says we don't allow Philid by maximizing so we can have more clash on Philid just because he thinks we're sacrificing topic. That doesn't mean we're still maximizing Philid. We're having more clash on Philid. Also, he says we shouldn't exclude contention, but we're not excluding contention. We're just saying we need to maximize Philid as much as possible. Then contention, but don't focus on the contention. Just focus on the framework debate, and then we focus on the framework debate. But we still obviously need contention because that's how offense works. And then he says Philid doesn't result in a winner. It does because it shows whose offense matters. So we still both have offense under both of our distinct frameworks, but that doesn't mean that we have that doesn't mean that we still resolve. If I win my framework, that means the AC offense is the only offense that matters, and AC wins if he didn't respond to my offense. Also, he says it's not a structural scoop, but it is. It's literally 4 minutes. Don't let him make the 13-13 argument because it's 4 minutes right after a 7-minute speech. It's complete. It's a structural scoop. Then he says ACC doesn't make sense. There's no warrant for this extent. Philid strategy standards for those reasons. Also, extend drop the debater because of the 8% sideways. Now on the framework contractions, I'll just be going for this Enoch evidence. His only response is
that it's not sufficient. He points that it's not sufficient, but it's not warrant. I also prefer this evidence that Enoch didn't, which says that it is sufficient compared to just as simply in the literature. And then he says, way that Enoch heard. Then he says it just doesn't apply to intuitions, but it does. It literally says can apply to any framework. So now Enoch means that I just need when the intuitions affirms. I don't need to win framework. The framework doesn't matter. And intuitions affirms his only argument says unwarranted assertion. But you can look into course. It says it's intuitive because people aren't going to want to be coerced, or people don't want to be unfair. That's why it's intuitive. That's how we derive the intuition.
Okay. Does anybody know how much time I had left?
145.
Thank you. Alright. Starting for 145 now.
Megan, did you get the method yet? Check the file. You can decide whether or not to read it. Good luck. Okay.
You read you made education matters arguments, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you make fairness matters?
Yeah.
What were they?
The role to judge was the better debater, not the best shooter. Also,
Okay.
judges future debaters from wanting to continue.
Okay, that's fine. Alright. So I'm going to be sending out a document. The order is new off. So there's a lot of paper sheets. So it's another new off, my new off.
Okay.
Then it's
New off.
then it's his first new off, which was the advocacy text one. Then it's his second new off, which is the weighing mechanism one. Then it's extensions of the NC really quick because it's conceded. Then it's going to be on the AC, and AC will be top down, starting with like the ACC again.
Based on you off, my two 1AR off, starting in,
Yep.
in the order I read them,
Yep.
NC, AC.
So
AC.
Blake, 2NR,
Okay.
round 6.
Second neg sheet. Second app sheet. Third app sheet. First neg sheet. First app sheet. That's not that bad. It's not too bad.
Perfect. Okay.
I just have to like.
So now I just gotta email this out. Reply all. Attach. Blake to round 6. Oh, and don't forget to change this to Xavier debate 7.
That's
Okay.
actually the funniest thing.
Okay.
Because usually people like spell it out SEVEN.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, I left something in there that I meant to delete, but I'll just tell you what it is when I'm skipping it.
Wait. 2NR.
I love it when people put the speech doc together before they send it out.
Got you. It also helps me organize my thoughts anyways.
Like during prep, when
Yeah.
they compile the speech doc during prep. That always.
It bugs me when they do otherwise, so I avoid it. Alright. Is everybody ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Starting. Oh.
Now, AC interpretation, the applicants give the neg the opportunity to comply with all potential interpretations if they are a violation of vision. B is a violation, he is not legally compliant with interpretations in CX, and his violation is a violation of vision, and C is standard one of the norm setting. When we don't give the debaters the opportunity to comply with no incentive to construct their strategy to adjust the degree norms of abuse will always exist. There's no perfect case, therefore complying with on abuse claims. Claims interpretation is only for you to with your which controls the internal norm setting because no carbon incentive following norms controls internally to all theory shells because the only point of theory to check back abuse. The debate community can inscribe fair rules to the ground, but this won't happen without the ability to actually set norms in the first place. Harms are specifically magnified with the violations of mission because there are infinite possible things that either side can admit, and meta theory comes first because one of the it determines what theory is legitimate. Reading the right and second is the only legitimate check against frivolous theory, and also don't let my opponent upload in the next speech because I don't have any 3 NRs, so that means that it's literally impossible for me to have any offense if he does that.
That's where I'm cutting this stuff because that stuff was specific to the F. Now let's go to his first shell.
Before I get to specifics on his first shell, I'm just going to be reading reasons as to why the voters go away because he only had justification for the voters in the last speech, which means literally any reasons as to why the voters as to why his voters don't matter. It means that we have to default to substance, which means if he doesn't get through every single one of these defensive arguments on the voters, then he can literally have no offense on theory. So starting with the fairness voter, 1, fairness is relevant, positive calculated, proof 2, there's no bright line for how much fairness is enough, so judge intervention necessary to determine when the pull trigger. Ironically, judge intervention skews fairness by leaving the round up to the arbitrary decision. This makes fairness a logical contradiction. 3, fairness is impossible. Complete fairness would be giving both teams the same number of speeches in the same time each. That's not true. Minority fairness is impossible to achieve. 4, even if possibly never know when you have fairness. Fairness is not a tangible concept. It cannot be calculated. 5, fairness is uncontrollable because it's influenced by external factors like coaching staff, money, or books. So there's no point in discussing fairness because we don't have a fair playing field to begin with. 6, fairness is inherently unfair because debaters end up going into the bidder with the last word, so the result reflects on who is a better theory blocks rather than who is actually more fair. And 7, you shouldn't vote me down for skewing the round in their favor just so that I'm the better debater. If I'm able to persuade others into agreeing with me and not my opponent, that shows I'm a better debater, which whether I was fair or not. Then let's do it. And then education voter 1, there's no bright line for how much education enough to vote on. 2, even if there is no bright line, education is interchangeable, no quantifiables. It's completely impossible to measure how educational been. 3, technically everything hurts education. Running any position against any other team is uneducational because you could have read a different position and said that was more educational. Let's see for everything hurts education, which makes it a ridiculous, unusable voter. 4, wrong. 4, MLD is centered on debating resolution. The judges has to evaluate the resolution not as a exercise more educational across the truth-testing arguments he has at the F. And 5, education the voter destroys any meaning debate. I could stand up and read 6 minutes out of a history text without never be reason to vote me up. And 6, education as a voter opens up the debate to judge intervention because the amount of knowledge the judge already had or what they absorbed throughout the round of varies. And 7, education is possible and unfair as the voter because the debater who is more educated would always win rather than the person who is actually better to debate. Now let's go to the actual specifics of the shell counter interpretation. The F has an advocacy text and the negative have a burden text or an advocacy text. This solves all this solves the stable ground argument because I can only have any offense by meeting my burden, nothing more, nothing less, which means that it's I can literally not shift in ground, but also there's literally no abuse because your advocacy text is just whole resolution, which means that you don't actually have stable advocacy in the first place because you can go for whatever subset of arguments within the general principle because the general principle includes literally every single bit of offense, but also it doesn't ensure having some sort of advocacy text does not ensure that I actually have stable ground because I could literally just off layer with theory and lead to or read some random new argument or just collapse on turns, which means I'm not defending an advocacy anymore, which means that you don't solve your interpretation does not solve now. Let's go to a second interpretation. He says that both debaters must have a weighing mechanism. Counter interpretations, both debaters do not have a weighing. The counter interpretation, both debaters do not have to have a weighing mechanism. I'm only having a counter interpretation because he agrees competing interpretations is necessary. But the problem is that his interpretation literally doesn't do anything. 1, you violate A. There's no way to weigh between intuitions, and B, every response to your framework is a reason to why you violate it because it means that your framework fails as a weighing mechanism. So that means that you are creating the most abuse, especially because intuition is when you literally your answer as to what is intuitive is literally just you intuit it, which means it's impossible to actually weigh between intuitions because everybody can have different intuitions. You can also cross by the argument is the response to the only framework word that he actually spends was the Enoch analysis, which means that it's impossible to use this framework as actually something because he literally says that anybody can intuit whatever framework they want, which is the reason as to why it's not a weighing mechanism because I can just intuit my framework and say that framework from source, but also your strategy is terrible. Your strategy is arguments affirm is not the negative. It only the standard you read is literally says affirmative, not negative, and you had to switch those. You had to accept those in your speech. So literally only strategy literally only applies to the app because the app has unique framing power, which means that your standard doesn't make any sense. Now let's go to the affirmative. Sorry, on the negative because I'm extending stuff that he conceded. On the negative, you can. I'm obviously winning substance because he concedes the entirety of the negative. So no matter. So as long as I make it impossible to look at theory, you just automatically vote negative because he concedes reasons as why NC takes out his framework. Why by NC takes out the app, you can just extend the conceded work and analysis that says it takes out your framework because individuals. The only way we can actually avoid coercion is if we allow individuals to take actions, even if those actions would harm them. He also concedes the rules evidence which says that you suck because you impose some sort of correct idea of intuition, which is coercive in the first place. He also concedes the how evidence, which says that we have to have the right to choose, which takes out coercion stuff because it's a higher layer of decision making. It doesn't matter if it results in some sort of bad impact for coercion. As long as the decision that they made that result in that coercion in the first place was not coerced because they have because individuals, it's always permissible to waive your own rights, which now we can go to the affirmative. He does a terrible job of analyzing the ACC argument. You can send the conceded. You can send the counter interpretation is the converse. Is the only response is that I'm maximizing philosophical education. The problem is that he concedes there's no reason as why in order to have a phil debate we have to exclude the contention level debate, which means that it doesn't matter. Even if you are maximizing phil, that doesn't require African contention choice in the first place, which means it goes away. But he also concedes that the debate on phil only matters and only has any sort of value between the debate how it applies to the topic. But he also concedes the 4 point, but because the phil debate is not supposed to result in a winner because the point of phil philosophies that we have to use it to weigh the round, which means that is not a reason reasons why it has ACC. Even if you say that we have to maximize field debate, you just concede all the reasons as why maximizing field debate does not require affirmative contention choice. Then let's go to his reasons on Strasky. His reasons on Strasky are terrible. He literally just says that yes, it is a short skew because 4 minutes, but that's not a reason. He concedes to argument this is not a short skew because you just have to get faster. That's your fault, not my fault, and it's not the fault of the structure in the first place, but also you incentivize theory debates in the first place that ruins Strasky. It was conceded, which means that your ACC argument goes away. Now to evaluate the Enoch argument. His response to Enoch is terrible because he just says it is sufficient, but he concedes that it being sufficient does not mean it tells us how we're supposed to act, which means that it fails as a framework because it doesn't guide action in the first place, and it doesn't tell us how, even if it is sufficient to decide upon, it doesn't tell us how to act. But he also concedes that it contradicts his 3 points, so you can cross apply his 3 point there. Now let's go to the contention level offense. He doesn't have any responses to my responses to contention because he runs out of time because he spent too much time trying to read a bunch of theories so that he'd upload and somehow win the round. But he concedes the arguments that say that his contention level is consequential, and the consequentialism fails. So you can send there's infinite possible results, and it's also and it's retroactive, but also it's not intuitive that please are coercive because the card literally says that only now are please coercive, not always.
Okay, do you remember how much prep I had?
I wrote it down on your sheet. Hold on. 1 minute, 12 seconds.
Okay, starting now.
Nope, I wrote down all of it.
The order will be his new off, the advocacy show, and then AF starting on ACC.
Okay, so advocacy text show? Advocacy text?
Yeah.
So advocacy text and ACC.
Your show, advocacy
Oh, my
text.
shell. Oh, right, I did write a shell. Okay, hold on. Let me just write down my shell. Okay, cool. So, my shell, advocacy text, ACC. Got it.
Okay. On your shell first, 8 point, on the shell proper, you don't compare conflict, which is the reason we shouldn't even evaluate your shell in the first place. Also, off norm counterintuition conversation off norm setting it's bad because there's many problems. There's many problems in the norm defending 8 points that judges don't pay attention to cross-sex most of the time. B points that it takes up my time, which is my valuable cross-sex time, which is also don't evaluate 2 and 3 piece 1. There's only one speech meaning after which is a 2 which is not enough time because I need my over speech also. Came too late. It's new in the 2. You don't evaluate 2 and 3. Also, meta 3 comes after regular 3 because 8 points are more likely to be frivolous if it's in response to a bunch of 3 because it's, you're just trying to find a way to get out and win the round, win this bubble round. B points this is bad because it's also very late. Now let's go to his first. Let's go to his reasons why fairness in education don't matter. He literally does a bad job at explaining why he should get these arguments, meaning that if in the 2 and meaning that I just need to win that he doesn't get these arguments in the 2 and that's the reason that you vote off right there. As long as I attend fairness of score education often. So first, don't let Newton and Wayne because he knew I had fairness and education implications right after the ACC. As soon as I read ACC and under views like that, I had links to fairness and education, meaning that I was reading, meaning I was having fairness and education impacts in the AC itself. Not a reason why he had to wait until after 1 or 3. Also, there's he doesn't provide a single warrant for why he's allowed to get these 2 and Wayne arguments. Also, also for why he's getting in you, and the two arguments also had in the AC. Also, the third point for why he doesn't get these fairness are bad arguments is because he reads fairness as contradictions. You sure you can contradict them one and when you have multiple conditional links, but it's too late to contradict now. Once you're having links to fairness now, don't validate. Then also don't give him credence. He literally does a bad job weighing why he gets to make these new responses so late, and then also he does a bad job on ACC. He's literally just extending his reasons without responding to. He responds we're never actually going to resolve, but we do resolve because whoever wins the framework debate or the field debate means their offense matters. We don't no need to respond to a contingent level offense. Also, you say it shows whose offense matters. So you can extend that. Also, you say it's stressy, but you would consider reasons it's directly 4 to 7, which is a structural disadvantage. So you would also consider drop the debater because of the 8% side by side. Also, after you drop the debater. So you can drop the debater on the stable advocacy show on that show. Lastly, on the McCoy evidence, you can see that there's how you're not going to apply to any evidence, meaning I just need when coercion is on into the. He's just literally making a substantive claims. He also conceded that we weigh carded Enoch and carded McCoy over his analytic claims. Don't be inclined to vote for Connell just because he's the better known debater. He's clearly losing this round. He had he messed up and he had to resort to something that he couldn't have even done in the 2, and it's a clear ballot on theory.
Good run.
Oh, just so everyone knows, that is currently filming and anyone can ask me to delete it at any point.
It's pretty ingenious filming system.
I'm planning to put it up on YouTube if everyone's okay with that.
Yeah. That's
When I
fine.
immediately saw it, I thought that was sitting like a cup of beer or something.
Yeah, no, he just had to make sure that it was like nice and cozy in the cup.
And then
give it a drink.
Oh, I thought somebody like dropped it in water and that was like a cup of rice to dry it out.
Oh, that would, yeah, that makes sense to me. I thought it was just like a free iPhone.
Yeah.
Go, anyone want one?
Fine. Could I see the voter and the what they are?
It was accepted voters.
Okay, that's fine. Megan, you should probably have to wrap.
Yeah, good.
Alright, I negate. I think there are a lot of different ways that I can negate, but I think that the 2NR strategy was a little bit confusing at times. So I'll just go through the flow and then I'll talk strategy for a second. So the easiest place I can vote is on the NC. It's conceded, the framework interactions are conceded. If theory doesn't matter, then that is the place where I go. I don't think theory matters. Fairness is not a voter. Education is not a voter. There are seven arguments. A bunch of them just go straight draw. You make arguments about no 2N weighing. Your arguments are first that there were like fairness and education internal links in the AC, so you should have known that they were voters. I looked through the AC. I don't see that fairness and education is a voter, so those arguments are new in the 1AR. You get to answer arguments in the next speech. I don't think, I think I would have to be very interventionist to say on the basis of the 2AR argument that I'm going to disregard a bunch of 2NR arguments that I think are fairly standard practice, I think. Second, I look at this 2NR, so that's the easiest place. Then I think, well, where could I be messing up? What could the AF have offense on? And so now I looked at all the places the AF might have offense. I don't think there's an RBI on meta theory at all. So this counterinterp on meta theory doesn't bother me. The shell you go for in the 2A, which I think is the ACC shell, has a bunch of conceded arguments on it. For instance, that field debate is useless if we don't apply it to the real world, which is a link turn with good weighing. Now, so that's the RFD part of it. Now the strategy part of it. I think the AF, I think 2 1AR theory shells is a little odd. It's like a lot of time to be spending on theory when the 1NC strategy is not that layered, not that difficult to answer in the sense of there isn't too much going on in it. You can still leverage portions of the 1AC. You can extend spikes from the AC. So you don't need 3 shells, one of which is extended from the AC and the 1AR. That's probably spreading yourself a little bit too thin. And the way that works out is that you don't get to answer the NC. Or spend much time on framework, which becomes important to you if you lose the theory debate. Now, here's why the 2NR strategy is a little bit confusing. I get the 2NR meta theory shell. That's cool. There are only a couple reasons why meta theory comes first.
Yeah.
It's short. That's fine. Maybe a little bit short. Maybe you should spend more time on weighing.
Okay.
Just create another barrier for the AF more than there already is, because the AF could just answer those 3 arguments and go for quantity of abuse outweighs.
Yep.
And that's only 3 arguments they have to wade through, as opposed to having to construct a counterinterpret to the shell and blah 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 blah. Second, your counterinterpretations to the 1AR shells, I don't really think there's a lot of offense there. You say counterinterp or a burden text, that does solve almost all of it, but you should have some reason why it is okay to read burden texts and not advocacy texts.
Yep.
Maybe a fill-ed reason or something. Because all you have to say next is that just there's no abuse and that the interp can't solve the abuse.
Yeah.
I like the no fairness, no education arguments, those are good. The second interp also doesn't have offense, but I like the you violate.
Okay. So CIs need offense.
Yeah, it's just confusing that you devote so much time to responding to the shells instead of just throwing up barriers to getting to the shells,
Okay.
and then don't put offense on the shells.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, anyone has questions?
Ludisco speaks.
29-4, 28-9.
Alright. Thanks. Thank you.
Get this flight 2 in here. Are you flight 2?
Oh right, I was flight A.
You were?
Yeah.
Oh, that means I can go take a nap.
Yeah, I've got the same idea, but instead I'm gonna not take a nap.
That was a hard 2AR to get though. One.
What do you think the ideal 2AR strategy
Yeah.
is?
So
Yeah.
your high
That's
low,
my question.
your highs at 30, your lows at 29.3.
Yep.
39.
29, 29, 6, 29, 4.
Think about what you must answer. You must answer meta theory. You must answer the stuff that produces fairness as a voter. Then you should go for one of the shells.
1.5.
You should go for the shell with the fairness, like you did last time.
It'll be the highest 450.
So I guess just generally things that you should drill are getting through 2NR blocks on theory, because those